Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute Wild West of India's cybersecurity evolution. We're going to trace this fascinating shift from the quaint, honestly kind of nostalgic threats of 2014, right up to the highly weaponized, complex reality we're facing in 2026. If you follow cyberspace at all, you already know things move incredibly fast, but seeing it all mapped out like this, it's completely eye-opening. To really grasp this massive techno-legal shift, we have to start with a mind-boggling question. How exactly does a simple 1 rupee and 72 paisa email scam somehow morph into a catastrophic 250 crore corporate crisis? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi thriller, right? But looking closely at the data, this is the actual trajectory we've been on. So let's map this journey out on our timeline. We're making an exact 12-year jump from the archives of July 11th, 2014, all the way to our current reality today, July 11th, 2026. Look at these massive leaps. We're starting with basic phishing and bogus certificates, bridging this crazy evolutionary gap of escalating threats, and finally landing squarely on AI fraud and massive corporate liability today. Which brings us to part 1, the 2014 baseline, or the infancy of our modern cyber threats. Okay, so let's zoom in on a specific threat from back then. Attackers were luring victims with a phishing email that promised a brand new Samsung Galaxy smartphone for just 1.72 rupees, which, let's be real, is a hilariously bold lie looking back on it. But if a user actually clicked, it silently dropped a Trojan, detected at the time by software like Kaspersky Pure 3.0. The whole goal was just to steal banking credentials and, alarmingly for that era, defeat the relatively new security measure of two-factor authentication. Back then, they didn't even bother spoofing the bank's name perfectly. They just hijacked the machine directly. Now, the contrast between then and now is absolutely stark. It's night and day. That primitive Trojan hiding in a scam email targeting your passwords totally evolved. Today, in 2026, we're dealing with highly weaponized AI-driven fraud. Hackers aren't just trying to bypass your 2FA with a hidden file anymore. They are literally defeating your identity entirely by using deepfakes to clone the voices and faces of executives or even your family members. And this brings us to a terrifying new reality known as SGI, or synthetically generated information. We're talking about the use of advanced generative models, think deepfake audio and real-time video cloning, used to manipulate contextual reality and totally bypass biometric verification. Fraudsters absolutely do not need a fake offer for a cheap smartphone anymore because they can just manipulate your reality to make you believe you're talking to your boss, your bank, or your spouse in real time. It's wild. Moving on to part 2, the liability shift. This is where the target moves from the consumer straight to the enterprise. The difference in legal liability here is massive. Back in 2014, banking regulations tried to absorb the impact of these scams by capping consumer liability at a mere 10,000 rupees, basically a safety net for consumer negligence. But today, that responsibility has shifted completely onto the enterprise and the data fiduciary under the sweeping mandates of the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, or DPDPA. And that shift brings us to this staggering number, 250 crores. Under the DPDPA, failing to protect personal records isn't about small, isolated losses or localized banking limits anymore. Oh no, it can trigger statutory compliance penalties, reaching up to an astronomical 250 crores per instance. Just let that sink in. So, the crucial takeaway is this. Data is no longer just a passive asset. If poorly secured, it's an active balance sheet liability. You really can't look at data as just something to hoard and monetize anymore. If you mishandle it, it transforms instantly into this highly toxic liability that can financially devastate a corporation. Part 3, the transformation of intermediaries. To understand this transformation, we need to look at a major systemic breakdown from 2014. Google actually detected and blocked fraudulent digital certificates that were issued by India's very own National Informatics Center. This systemic failure highlighted a highly vulnerable public key infrastructure where administrative and cryptographic keys were, well, they were just poorly guarded. And this brilliantly illustrates how much we've evolved. In 2014, the fix was simple: basic revocation lists and browser blocks by the controller of certifying authorities. But today, tech intermediaries can't just slap a basic browser block on a problem. They have to actively deploy metadata tagging, complex AI tools, and persistent labels to trace where information comes from and actively police synthetic media on their networks. Let's look at how the legal framework spelt up around this. In 2014, platforms enjoyed a massive safe harbor under Section 79 of the IT Act. They were viewed simply as neutral pipelines, just passing the data along. But by 2026, that concept is completely rewritten. Platforms are now legally required to act as proactive algorithmic gatekeepers. They are deeply legally responsible for what flows through their digital pipes. And to show you just how much faster the legal system demands action now, check this out. In 2014, platforms were given a rather leisurely 72-hour window to comply with takedown requests. Today, that window has aggressively compressed into strict 2 to 3 hour operational mandates for high-risk content. The sheer speed and scale of modern threats literally dictates the speed of the required response. Part 4. The constant core. Amidst all this chaos, what actually hasn't changed? The most profound lesson from looking into our own past is realizing this enduring reality. Security mechanisms are always just a temporary shield. An advanced Trojan from 2014 that had the whole industry in a panic, that's literally elementary script kiddie material today. Yet the fundamental vulnerabilities of human nature and the challenges of systemic governance, they remain exactly the same. The ultimate goal then and now is simply protecting the integrity of the data. Whether it was 2014 or today, the core objective of cyber jurisprudence in India remains the exact same, ensuring that technology serves trust rather than exploiting human vulnerability. That is the ultimate benchmark, the true guiding light for all these shifting laws, regulations, and technologies. Which leaves us with a final crucial thought to wrap up this explainer. If threats escalated this rapidly over the last 12 years, I mean from a literal 1 rupee email scam to synthetic AI cloning that flawlessly mimics your family, what on earth is going to secure your identity 12 years from now, in 2038? It's a question every single one of us, from individuals to global enterprises, absolutely needs to start preparing for right now. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive.